The Clone Wars, a monumental conflict that spanned the galaxy, began as a deep and insidious manipulation by the Sith, orchestrated to break the peace and destroy the Jedi Order. From the very beginning, the Republic was unaware of the shadowy forces pulling the strings behind the scenes. On one side stood the Galactic Republic, a vast democratic system composed of thousands of worlds united under one banner. On the other stood the Separatists, a coalition of systems seeking to secede from the Republic. Both sides were primed for war, and the galaxy seemed to stand on the edge of a precipice. The stage was set for a conflict unlike any the galaxy had seen before. The war itself began when the Republic's Supreme Chancellor, Palpatine, who secretly was the Sith Lord Darth Sidious, pushed the Senate to pass the Military Creation Act. This act authorized the creation of a massive clone army, a force bred from the genetic template of the bounty hunter Jango Fett. These clones, designed for battle from birth, would serve as the Republic's new soldiers. They were created on the remote world of Kamino, far from the prying eyes of the Senate. The clones were bred for obedience, with their accelerated growth and programming ensuring they would follow orders without question. Unknown to most, the clones were part of a much larger plan devised by Darth Sidious, who needed the war to advance his ultimate goal of galactic domination. Sidious had manipulated the galaxy's political system, using the conflict between the Separatists and the Republic to his advantage. The war was not just about the fate of the galaxy, it was about creating the perfect environment to topple the Republic and seize control for the Sith. Sidious's apprentice, Darth Maul, had been sent to eliminate key Jedi, but it was his successor, Count Dooku, who would play a crucial role in the conflict. Count Dooku, a former Jedi Master who had fallen to the dark side, became the leader of the Separatists. With his charisma and cunning, he rallied many systems to his cause, presenting himself as the champion of freedom against the corrupt Republic. What the Separatists did not realize, however, was that Dooku was another puppet of Darth Sidious, furthering the Sith's plot to bring about a galactic civil war. While Dooku led the Separatists, the Republic's forces were commanded by Jedi generals, who, despite their peacekeeping duties, found themselves leading an army of millions into battle. The Jedi, once defenders of peace and justice, became the commanders of the Republic's military forces, forced to fight against their former ideals. Jedi Knight Anakin Skywalker, a young and powerful Jedi, was one of the most gifted warriors in the Republic's service. His connection to the Force was unparalleled, and his rise to prominence as a general in the Grand Army of the Republic was swift. Anakin, along with his mentor Obi-Wan Kenobi, was instrumental in the Republic's military efforts. Together, they fought in countless battles, leading clone soldiers into combat across the galaxy. Anakin's relationship with the clones was complex. While he recognized that the clones were not truly individuals, he formed bonds with many of them, particularly with a group of clone soldiers known as the 501st Legion. The clones, though genetically identical, were not mere automatons. They had personalities, feelings, and, most importantly, loyalty. Some, like Captain Rex, were dedicated to the Jedi, while others, like Fives, would eventually question the morality of the war. The clones' loyalty to their Jedi generals was unwavering, but their destinies were ultimately shaped by the orders they were given. While Anakin's role in the war grew, the Sith Lords continued to play their game in the shadows. Sidious, ever the manipulator, engineered conflicts to further his goals, pushing the galaxy toward the brink of collapse. The war's toll on the galaxy was devastating, with entire worlds devastated by battle and countless lives lost in the fighting. Entire planets became battlefields, and the lines between friend and foe became blurred. The Separatists, led by Dooku and his dark ally General Grievous, were relentless in their pursuit of victory. Grievous, a cyborg with a ruthless reputation, became one of the Republic's most feared enemies, a twisted blend of organic and mechanical parts who fought with an almost savage ferocity. Despite the horrors of war, the Jedi struggled to maintain their commitment to peace. The war was a violation of everything they stood for, yet they found themselves unable to stop the tide of violence that engulfed the galaxy. The Jedi Council, though aware of the dark influence of the Sith, was unsure of how to confront the growing threat. They could sense the manipulation of the Force but were too divided to act decisively. In the midst of all this, the Clone Wars became a test not just of military might but of the Jedi's own strength and wisdom. The war became a crucible, and the Jedi were forced to confront their own limitations. Anakin Skywalker, once the symbol of hope for the Jedi Order, began to fall under the influence of the dark side. His love for Padme Amidala, his fear of losing her, and his growing disillusionment with the Jedi Order made him vulnerable to manipulation. Darth Sidious, sensing this weakness, began to seduce Anakin, promising him the power to save Padme and overcome death itself. The Jedi's reluctance to embrace the dark side, however, only pushed Anakin further towards Sidious's machinations. In his quest for power, Anakin's relationship with the Jedi Council became strained, and his growing distrust in their decisions led him to make increasingly dangerous choices. Anakin's fall was not immediate. At first, he was determined to fight for the Republic and its ideals. He led the Republic's forces with distinction, his bravery and cunning in battle earning him widespread admiration. However, as the war wore on, his sense of justice became clouded by anger and fear. The clones, once seen as mere soldiers, became Anakin's brothers in arms, but his sense of attachment to them began to conflict with the Jedi teachings, which urged detachment. As the war progressed, Anakin became more desperate to find a way to save his beloved Padme, who he feared was doomed to die in childbirth. Darth Sidious continued to manipulate Anakin, pushing him further toward the dark side. He promised Anakin the power to prevent Padme's death, leading him to make choices that would forever change the galaxy. In the final days of the Clone Wars, Anakin's path to darkness became inevitable. The Republic, the Jedi, and the galaxy itself were all doomed by the events that Anakin would soon set in motion. The final turning point came when Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin faced off in a fateful duel on the volcanic planet of Mustafar. Anakin had embraced the dark side, becoming Darth Vader, and had begun his campaign to destroy the Jedi Order. Obi-Wan, heartbroken by his former pupil's fall, confronted Anakin in a battle that would define their destinies. The duel was intense, both physically and emotionally, as Obi-Wan tried to reason with Anakin, urging him to turn back from the path he had chosen. But it was too late. Anakin's hatred and fear drove him to strike Obi-Wan down, and he was consumed by the power of the dark side. In the aftermath of the Clone Wars, the Republic was no more. The Jedi were nearly wiped out in the purge known as Order 66, executed by the very clones who had once fought alongside them. Anakin, now Darth Vader, became the Emperor's enforcer, hunting down the remnants of the Jedi Order. The galaxy was plunged into a new era, one marked by fear, oppression, and the rise of the Galactic Empire. The Clone Wars, while a time of great tragedy and loss, were also a time of great heroism and sacrifice. The Jedi fought valiantly, and many clones, such as Captain Rex, were dedicated to their cause, even as they were betrayed by the very ones they had sworn to protect. The war left deep scars on the galaxy, but its legacy would shape the future of the galaxy for generations to come. Though the Clone Wars themselves ended, the effects of the conflict rippled through the galaxy, setting the stage for the rise of the Empire and the rebellion that would one day seek to bring balance to the galaxy once again. As the Clone Wars raged on, the galaxy began to feel the weight of its consequences. The battlefronts were vast, stretching across countless worlds, and the conflict was unlike anything the galaxy had experienced before. The Republic, although ostensibly the defenders of peace, had transformed into a militarized entity, and the Jedi, once protectors of balance and harmony, were now generals commanding armies. The Clone Wars were not just a fight for political control. They were a test of the very fabric of the galaxy itself. In the midst of this turmoil, the Jedi Order faced one of its greatest challenges: the preservation of its core ideals in a galaxy at war. The clones, though initially seen as expendable soldiers, began to develop personalities and bonds with their Jedi commanders. The more seasoned clones, such as Captain Rex, became trusted allies to Jedi generals like Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi. The camaraderie between Jedi and clone was unique, a blend of duty and respect, though the clones were ultimately shackled by their programming and purpose. Clones like Rex were more than soldiers. They were individuals who fought not just for their cause, but for their comrades. Their loyalty was unquestionable, and yet, their fate was always sealed by their origins. When the moment of betrayal came, when Order 66 was issued by Darth Sidious to exterminate the Jedi, there was no hesitation. The clones, bound by their programming, turned on their Jedi generals, executing them without remorse. Rex, though able to resist the command due to the bonds he had formed, was not immune to the larger tragedy unfolding. As the war unfolded, Anakin Skywalker found himself caught in an ever-tightening web of deception. His status as a hero of the Republic and one of the Jedi Order's most skilled warriors made him a key figure in the war. Yet, his inner turmoil grew with each passing day. His fear of loss, particularly his fear of losing Padme, the woman he loved, weighed heavily on him. The Jedi Council's refusal to allow him to form attachments only drove a wedge between Anakin and the Order. He began to question their motives, their methods, and their ability to understand him. This dissatisfaction with the Jedi, coupled with his growing frustration over the Republic's inability to bring an end to the war, made him increasingly susceptible to the dark influence of Darth Sidious. The war itself was filled with complex battles and key events that shaped the galaxy's future. The Battle of Geonosis, the opening salvo of the war, was just the beginning. As the conflict spread, iconic planets such as Kashyyyk, Utapau, and Mustafar became crucial battlefronts. The Republic's military was led by the Jedi, who commanded vast clone armies against the Separatist forces, which were often led by ruthless leaders like General Grievous. Grievous, once a fearsome warrior, had become a terrifying symbol of the Separatist threat. His mechanical body was a blend of organic matter and deadly technology, designed to create the perfect killing machine. He fought with multiple lightsabers, taunting the Jedi as he made them bleed in battle after battle. Though the Republic struggled, they had victories, many of which were hard-earned, but the underlying manipulation of the war was ever-present. While both sides fought for control, it was the Sith Lord Darth Sidious who controlled the game from the shadows. His ultimate goal was never to have the Republic or the Separatists win. It was to destroy the Jedi and establish his rule over the galaxy. Sidious, through the guise of his alter ego Chancellor Palpatine, played both sides, pushing the Republic into ever greater conflict. He was the puppet master, pulling the strings of war while pretending to be a servant of the people. His genius was in his ability to remain hidden, even while orchestrating the downfall of both the Republic and the Jedi Order. For the Jedi, this was a time of extreme danger. The Clone Wars tested them, pulling them further from their ideals. In many ways, the Jedi were forced into roles they had never anticipated. They fought in battles and commanded armies, which only exacerbated the strain on their philosophy. As the Jedi Council grew more divided, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker continued their partnership on the front lines. Obi-Wan, ever the wise and calm presence, was a contrast to Anakin, who was brash and driven by his emotions. Their relationship was a complex one, shaped by mutual respect, but also by deep differences in their approach to the war. Anakin's emotional struggles only grew as the war progressed. Despite his immense power, he was unable to shake the haunting visions of Padme's death, which he saw in his dreams. His desperation to protect her, to prevent the future he feared, made him more vulnerable to the temptations of the dark side. Darth Sidious knew exactly how to manipulate these fears, offering Anakin a path to unlimited power, a way to control death itself. The lure of this promise proved too strong for Anakin to resist. Sidious played on Anakin's sense of helplessness, convincing him that the Jedi were too weak to act, that only by embracing the dark side could he truly save the ones he loved. In contrast, Obi-Wan and other Jedi, though recognizing the depth of the danger posed by the Sith, continued to fight in the war. They did not fully comprehend the depths of Sidious's scheme or Anakin's internal struggles. While they were deeply loyal to the Republic and dedicated to stopping the Separatists, the Jedi were unaware of the Sith plot unfolding beneath them. Their inability to sense the true depth of the Sith's manipulation sealed their fate. When Order 66 was issued, it was not just a betrayal by the clones. It was a betrayal by the very government they had served and the very soldiers they had trusted. The betrayal struck swiftly, and the Jedi found themselves hunted down. Clones, their loyal soldiers, turned on them without hesitation. Those who survived were forced into hiding as the Republic transformed into the Empire. The rise of the Galactic Empire under Emperor Palpatine marked the end of the Jedi Order as an institution. The once glorious Jedi were reduced to myths and legends, hunted down and destroyed by the very soldiers they had fought beside. Anakin, now Darth Vader, became the Emperor's enforcer, and together with the Emperor, they solidified their control over the galaxy. The Republic was no more. The Sith, who had worked in the shadows for generations, had finally succeeded in bringing about their ultimate goal, the complete domination of the galaxy. In the aftermath of the Clone Wars, the galaxy was left scarred. The war, though ostensibly a battle for control between the Republic and the Separatists, had been a far more insidious conflict. It was a war that, in the end, destroyed the ideals of the Republic, eliminated the Jedi Order, and set the stage for the rise of the Empire. The consequences of the Clone Wars would continue to be felt for decades to come, as the galaxy grappled with the fallout from a conflict that was more than just a war. It was the end of an era and the beginning of a dark age under Sith rule. And yet, even in the shadow of the Empire, there was always hope. Hope that the legacy of the Jedi would one day return to the galaxy.